Jesus in John 10:10 said, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy." He said, "I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." The thief who comes to steal, kill, and destroy in this passage is the devil. The devil uses some people to kill and destroy other people. The devil also uses people to kill and destroy themselves. Gluttony is one of the ways in which the devil gets people to kill and destroy themselves. You need to know what gluttony is. I want us to talk about gluttony. You see, gluttony is the act of excessive and uncontrollable eating and drinking. And a glutton is a person who eats and drinks excessively and uncontrollably. Gluttony is one of the 7 deadly sins. And gluttony frequently coexists with other deadly sins in the same person. You don't find gluttony alone. Whenever you see somebody that eats and drinks excessively and uncontrollably, there is something else present. Esau had gluttony combined with anger. The sons of Eli, they had gluttony combined with lust. The prodigal son had gluttony combined with greed. You may not understand that because it is not very apparent from the passage. Do you really know why that prodigal son went to the father to ask for his own portion of inheritance? Because he did not want to wait for the father's death, because the wealth would have been used up some more. He really didn't know how long the father was going to live. And the father is getting old. The father may not have been making more money. So he was concerned that if he waited for the father to die, the amount of wealth left for them to distribute will be much smaller. And the Bible said that he took his father's money and he went on riotous living. Gluttony is a big problem. See what God told Moses about gluttons. Go to Deuteronomy 21. Read verse 18 to 21. Deuteronomy 21, 18 to 21.
If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son,
If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son,
which will not obey the voice of his father,
which will not obey the voice of his father,
or the voice of his mother,
or the voice of his mother,
and that when they have chastened him,
and that when they have chastened him,
will not hearken unto them,
will not listen to them,
then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him,
then his father and his mother will take him,
and bring him out unto the elders of the city,
and they will bring him to the elders of the city,
and unto the gate of his place,
and on the gate of the place.
and they shall say unto the elders of the city,
And the parents will say unto the elders of the city,
this our son is stubborn
"This our son is
and
stubborn
rebellious.
and rebellious.
He will not obey our voice.
He will not obey our voice.
He is a glutton
He is a glutton
and a drunkard.
and a drunkard.
All the men of the city shall stone him with stones,
And all the men of his city shall stone him with stones,
that he die.
that he die.
So shall thou put evil away from among you.
So shall thou put evil away from among you,
All Israel shall hear and fear.
and all Israel shall hear and fear." This is how God feels about gluttony. Excessive and uncontrollable eating and drinking. It is an evil. God commanded that a glutton who refuses to control his appetite and rebels against his parents when he is corrected be stoned to death. I want you to notice here that gluttony carried the same punishment as adultery. You need to understand what gluttony is. It is important for you to understand what gluttony is and what gluttony is not. God expects us to eat and drink and enjoy life. God gave the children of Israel days of feasting and days of fasting. God is not against you eating and drinking. Jesus attended a wedding ceremony at Cana, and he turned water into wine for the people in John 2:1-10. Apostle Paul advised Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:23 to stop drinking only water and use little wine. God is not against you eating. God is not against you drinking. What God is against is excessive and uncontrollable. The key word there is uncontrollable. Go to Exodus 16:15-18.
And when the children of Israel saw it,
when God gave the children of Israel manna from heaven, they saw it.
they said one to another,
They said one to another,
"It is manna."
it is manna.
For they wist not that it was.
Because they did not know what it was.
And Moses said unto them,
And Moses said unto them,
"This is the bread
This is the bread
which the Lord had given you to eat.
which the Lord had given you to eat.
This is the thing which the Lord had commanded.
And this is what God has commanded.
Gather of it every man according to his eating."
You see, gather of it every man according to his eating. Some people, they eat a little at a time. Some people, they eat a lot at a time. That is not gluttony. You eat until you're satisfied, until you're full. God told them when he gave them manna, gather, eat every man according to his eating.
An omer for every man,
An omer for every man
according to the number of your persons.
according to the number of your persons.
Take ye every man for them which are in his tent.
Take ye every man for them which are in the tent.
And the children of Israel did so and gathered,
And the children of Israel did so and gathered,
some more.
some more, some less.
And when they did meet it with an omer,
And when they did made it out with an omer,
he that gathered much had nothing over.
he that gathered more had nothing over.
He that gathered little had no lack.
He that gathered little had no lack.
He gathered every man according to his eating.
They gathered every man according to his eating. Thank you. Gluttony is not how much you eat, but why you eat when you eat. Some people eat very little, while others eat a lot at a time. Gluttony is not eating a lot, but eating excessively and uncontrollably. You see, if you eat just because you see free food, you're a glutton. That means food has control of your eating. You should eat when you're hungry, not because you see free food. You see, eating just because it is some time is gluttony. If you eat based on time, that means time has control of your eating. You see, God gave manna every day. And Jesus taught us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." God supplies daily bread. You should eat when you're hungry. You shouldn't eat because it's morning. You shouldn't eat because it's afternoon. You shouldn't eat because it is night. Time and when you eat have no relationship. But you see, in the world, they have come up with this 3 square meal. Do you know where this 3 square meal came from? You see, in the ancient times, people traveled by wagon and by ship. So there used to be these bed and breakfast inns on the road and along the seaport for travelers. So as these bed and breakfast inns they increase, there is competition among them. So they wanted to attract customers. So they started offering more meals than breakfast. So everybody said, okay, we'll give you 2 meals. When they got to 3 meals, nobody was making profit anymore, so they stopped offering more than 3 meals. But they still wanted to attract customers, so they say, we'll give you 3 square meals. You see, square has equal sides on all 4. So when they say 3 square meal, it means when you come, we'll give you meals that are equally decent in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. You know, it's like equal. Like when you say you have a square deal, like a deal that is fair for everybody. It's fair for you, it's fair for me. So when they say we'll give you 3 square meals, they meant they'll give you meals in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. It's not like they will give you 1 cookie in the morning and give you 1 sandwich in the afternoon and maybe give you 1 soda at night. No, it's going to be a 3 square meal. That was where 3 square meal came from. Nobody had 3 square meal in the Bible. From Genesis to Revelation, nobody had 3 square meals. They had their daily bread. People ate when they were hungry. You ate in the morning, not because it's breakfast, but because you fasted all night. And you're hungry, you eat. If you wake up in the morning and you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. Anytime you begin to eat, when your eating is connected to something that has nothing to do with your hunger, you have a problem. The only time you should eat is when you're hungry. God wants us to eat and drink and be merry. God wants us to eat and drink in moderation and under self-control. What we eat, when we eat, how we eat should be 100% under our control. We're not supposed to be slaves to food and alcohol. Isaiah in chapter 5 verse 11 said, "Woe unto them that rise early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflames them." You see, when you begin to drink like this, you got a problem. You start drinking from morning till night, and then you wake up the next morning and you begin the same thing. And that was exactly what Solomon was talking about in our first lesson. Proverbs 23. Read verse 19 to 21. Proverbs 23, 19 to 21.
Hear thou, my son.
He said, "Hear thou, my son,
And be wise.
be wise.
Guide thy heart in the way.
Guide your heart in the right way.
Be not among wine bibbers,
Don't be among wine bibbers,
among righteous eaters of flesh.
and among riotous eaters of flesh.
For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty.
For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty,
And drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags.
and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags." Thank you. A wine bibber is a drunkard, and a riotous eater of flesh is a glutton. You see, riotous eating is the biblical depiction of a chaotic and uncontrollable eating. Uncontrollable eating invariably leads to unnecessary and excessive eating. You may or may not gain weight. Just because somebody is big does not mean they're a glutton. There are people that can eat and eat and eat and they will still look like stick. And there are people that eat nothing and they are battling with weight. So don't look at people because you see them, they have a little bit weight on them, you say it must be a glutton. You are dead wrong. You see, when you eat excessively and uncontrollably, Solomon said you will come to poverty. You see, poverty comes from both the cost of the food and the cost of sickness. Because you see, all the chronic diseases, most of them, hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, even cancer now, they have something to do with how you eat and what you eat. Uncontrollable drinking invariably will lead you to excessive drinking and alcohol-related illnesses. If you drink too much, you end up with gastritis because the alcohol will burn your stomach. If you don't stop, you end up with pancreatitis because the alcohol will fry your pancreas. If you continue, you will develop liver disease. And when your liver disease comes, it takes the kidney with it. And if you don't stop, you end up with dementia. Because let me tell you something, alcohol dissolves your brain. Alcoholics have smaller brains than non-alcoholics. The drowsiness comes from the stupor and stupidity of alcoholism. You've seen it on your way to work. You see men, full-grown, able-bodied men, passed out on the street from drinking. Nobody forced the alcohol in his mouth. With his own hand, he used his own hand to pour the alcohol in a glass, put it in his own mouth until he passed out. Solomon said, drowsiness will clothe a man with rags. Because if you drink and you pass out like that, you won't go to work now. Then you get fired. And when you get fired, what happens now? You won't be able to change your clothes. Go to Proverbs 20, read verse 1. Proverbs 20, verse 1.
Wine is a mocker.
Wine is a mocker.
Strong drink is raging.
He says, strong drink is raging.
And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise.
And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Don't let the alcohol deceive you. Don't let the food deceive you. You see, the most dangerous and destructive consequence of uncontrollable eating and drinking is the inability to fast and pray. Let me ask you something. If you cannot fast and pray because you can't stay away from food, of what good are you to God? If you cannot work for God, what are you good for? Everything God and the people count on you for in the house of prayer depends on your ability to fast and to pray. You can't clean and consecrate the house of prayer without fasting. You cannot participate in the weekly prayer services without fasting. You can't pray for anybody in the house of prayer without fasting. You can't visit anybody at home to pray for them without fasting. The inability to fast and pray make you a sitting duck, an easy target for the enemy. It endangers you and your family. It makes you a liability to the people around you. Because see what happens. People are able to fast and pray for you, but you're unable to fast and pray for them. Is that fair? There are people with legitimate medical reason for their inability to fast. Don't get me wrong. Some people can't fast. For instance, if somebody is diabetic and they're on insulin, they shouldn't fast. You can't fast on insulin. But most people can fast. They can. But they are so hooked on food. They're so hooked on breakfast. Some people say, I have to have breakfast. I'm like, what? You have to have breakfast? Let me tell you something. When 9/11 happened, it took 3 days to get some people out. They could have died of not having breakfast if they're so hooked on breakfast. You should never put yourself in that kind of situation that I have to have breakfast. Come on. You don't have to have anything. You can choose to have breakfast, but you cannot say I have to have breakfast, because then you're a slave to breakfast. That means if God requires you to do something that requires you to let go of breakfast, you won't be able to do it. That is not a good place to be. You know, the most disturbing and disgusting behavior of glutton is the flight from the house of prayer during fasting season and the fight for food during the feasting season. I don't like it at all. It is wrong. It is very disgusting and it's disturbing. When you go to churches, many of our branches in Lent, you see 1 or 2 people that will do the evening prayers. They may have fasted. They will do the prayer, do the prayer, do the prayer. Then on Easter, when there is food now, you will see all this colored garment. Then they will come and say, where is the elders' food? Where were the elders now? During the Lenten season, where were they? Gluttons. That is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. As elders and leaders and children of God in the house of prayer, we are required to lead by example. And that was exactly what Jesus was talking about in our second lesson, Matthew 24. Matthew 24, read verse 45 to 51. Matthew 24, 45 to 51.
Who then is a faithful and wise servant?
Who then is a faithful and wise servant?
Whom his Lord had not made ruler over his household.
Whom his Lord had made ruler over his household.
Give them meat in due season.
To give them meat in due season. He didn't say to give them meat at any time. He said to give them meat in due season. God needs you to have your eating and drinking under control.
Blessed is that servant.
He said, blessed is that servant.
Whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing.
Whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing.
Verily I say unto you.
He said, verily I say unto you.
That he shall make him ruler over all his goods.
He shall make him ruler over all his goods.
And if that evil servant.
He said, but if that evil servant
shall say in his heart.
Shall say in his heart.
My Lord delayeth his coming.
My Lord delayeth his coming.
And shall begin to smite his fellow servants.
And shall begin to smite his fellow servants.
And to eat and drink with the drunken.
And to eat and drink with the drunken.
The Lord of that servant shall come in a day.
He said, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day.
When he looketh not for him.
When he looketh not for him.
And in an hour.
And in an hour.
That he is not aware of.
That he is not aware of.
And shall cut him asunder.
And shall cut him asunder.
And appoint him his portion.
And appoint him his portion. With the hypocrites.
There shall be weeping and
There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. My friends, I want you to pay attention. He said he shall come and cut him asunder. Cut him asunder because he smite his fellow servants and he start to eat and drink with drunkards. He lost the control over his eating and drinking. He has allowed himself to be timed. You can make yourself a slave. There was a Russian scientist named Pavlov. Pavlov took a dog and he rings the bell and he feed the dog. He ring the bell and he feed the dog. He will ring the bell and he will feed the dog. After a while, he rang the bell and there was no food, but the dog was salivating as if food was there. Because he had made that dog a slave of the food. So the dog was not eating not because he was hungry anymore, but because of the bell. The devil will do the same thing to you. He will shift your priority and you will eat and drink uncontrollably until you become useless in the house of prayer. The ability to control how we eat and drink is so important to God that he commanded the children who refused to learn self-control be stoned to death. Servants of God must be in control of what and when they eat and drink at all times. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. There is a time to play and there is a time to pray. There is a time to feast and there is a time to fast. You cannot be playing when you're supposed to be praying. And you cannot be feasting when you're supposed to be fasting. You must be in control. Take control. Because if you don't take control, it's going to cost you. Jesus said, what goes into your mouth will come out the other end. Is it what going to hell for? Is it what getting cut asunder for? What is food? What is food? He said he give them their meat in due season. Solomon said there is a time and a season for every purpose under heaven. Don't eat just because you see free food. Don't drink it just because you see free alcohol. Drink because you want to drink. Eat because you're hungry. Take control. Take control. Don't let the devil use food to destroy you. Now to God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost.